some of the matching gifts that our generous corporate sponsors have made available today. You can see the link in the comment section now. And thank everybody. Thank you all for joining me on this amazing program, supporting this amazing organization. For everybody just joining us right now, please post in the comments if you have any pets, especially if any of them are Seattle Humane alumni. And feel free to post them in the pet names as well, too, in those comments. Personally, I have 3 cats, and all of them are actually Seattle Humane gifts that our generous corporate sponsors have made available
single
today.
mom.
You can see the link in the comment section now.
Didn't have a
and
home. Seattle
thank
Humane brought her
everybody.
in, and
Thank you all for joining me on this.
Next one's Luna.
2020 brought many changes for Seattle Humane. The team innovated at every level of this organization to ensure the safety of the staff, volunteers, and the animal and their care. As the organization starts this new year, Christopher Ross has taken helm as CEO. With that, I'm pleased to introduce Christopher Ross.
Hi, everybody. I think we're having a little bit more technical challenge on the remote, but hopefully everybody can hear me fine and you're seeing the program is fine. I want to start by first saying thank you to Darren for sharing tonight's lunch by Bytes. So thank you for taking the time. And
Anything as bugs. I definitely get that firsthand. So yeah, as we work out the bugs, I'll say I'm absolutely so happy to do this. This was a huge honor. I'm really excited for everybody who's taken time out and a busy day to hear from me today. So you've been with the organization a little over a month now. So give us an update. What have you been seeing and learning? I can't imagine how much it's been to take in.
it has been a lot. So for starters, let me just say, these are my peeps, through and through. The Seattle Humane staff are clearly here for one reason. They love animals. They're certainly not here for the stock options or the glamorous work, and quite the opposite. It's tough work, and in some cases, very unglamorous. But they're all here united by one thing. They're committed by the mission and their love of animals. And that's why I'm here, for my love of animals and the people who love them. So as you mentioned, I'm really only in my 6th week. This actually is the 6th week right now. But during this time, I have become in awe of the many complicated steps that it takes for an animal through our organization to make their journey so seamless. And I'm learning a ton during this period. As I'm shadowing the teams, what I'm going through is considered my immersion, and I'm seeing the organization through their eyes and through their lens, and I'm understanding what a talented and dedicated staff that it takes to make this work. So speaking of a talented staff, I also want to take this moment to pause and address one of the very committed staff members who is unfortunately not with us today, and that would be Paula Littlewood. So Paula was the organization's interim CEO back in 2020, and she led the agency through a ton of growth and a ton of change. And she gave an awful lot of herself, and she never let something as simple as a pandemic or unfortunately cancer slow down her determination to make a huge job well done. So I'm here to say, with a huge collective gratitude and appreciation to Paula. She has left a permanent and shining mark on the agency. So again, on behalf of all of Seattle Humane, thank you to Paula Littlewood. So with that, I also want to now change gears a little and talk about what does the future hold for us? So you might be asking, now that we're in 2021 and it looks like things may be starting to level off a little bit, what is the future going to be? And honestly, it's still a little too early to answer. As I said, I've only been at the agency for about 6 weeks. But I can say that much of what we're going to do is still going to be heavily influenced on how COVID is going to let us reopen. And fortunately, this organization has learned an awful lot about how to run a very complex multi-tiered animal shelter effectively inside of a lockdown for a pandemic. So one example would be our community programs. We launched some new ones in 2020, and we also bolstered some existing ones. And I have to say, I have been both personally touched and wildly impressed with how these programs support animals and the families who love them. And you're going to hear more about some of these programs today and some of the other changes that the agency has been able to make to safely bring pets and animals together. But these last few weeks, as I mentioned during this immersion, have really been both challenging and exciting and eye-opening, but above all, they have been an awful lot of fun. So let me share that with you if I can.
Absolutely.
Later in today's program, you'll have a chance to hear from the expert staff at Seattle Humane, as I've been doing over my first month here at the agency. It might not be obvious to some, but Seattle Humane operates a large, fully equipped surgical clinic performing dozens of procedures, largely spay and neuter, but every day. I was blown away by the skilled and caring doctors and vet technicians who spend so many hours every day making sure that our shelter animals and community pets are all receiving the best surgical treatment and support that they need to be happy and healthy. I met our Pet Resource Center staff. These are dedicated champions of the human-animal bond. These folks oversee our many community programs, both old and new. They ensure that we can keep as many families together as possible, and then being there when it's the pet's time to embark on a new journey. Hardworking staff making sure that pet owners have the food and supplies that they need during challenging times, and making long treks to bring pets closer to finding their new families. Our skilled adoption team uses new systems to connect pets with the perfect family, quickly and safely through curbside appointments. These are just some of the many Seattle Humane people who make me so honored and proud to be a part of the Seattle Humane team. Everyone is constantly innovating and giving their all to save lives, complete families, and keep pets with the people who love them.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, if that video is any indication, you have been very busy the last month.
I have, but it has been so fulfilling, and I am so excited about the future for Seattle Humane. I'm excited about what the future holds in terms of being a leader in sheltering and animal care, a leader in community-based services while we continue to not only redefine those services, but also while we're actually meeting the needs of a very grateful community and a very special human-animal bond. I'm also really excited to have the honor to work with this amazing crew, a very talented and dedicated team. I mean, this is a team of approximately 130 people who normally in non-COVID time get to work with approximately 3,000 volunteers, equally talented and equally committed to trying to help move the agency forward. And together, they would deliver on our mission virtually every day. However, during these challenging times of COVID, the staff have to carry the full workload without the benefit of the volunteers. So as soon as we can, we're going to safely bring the volunteers back onto campus to the degree that we can and try to attain what would be a new normal in this post-COVID world if we can get to that point. But I will say, Darren, what has not changed is that I could not be doing any of this work, the agency could not be doing any of this work without the support of our committed donors. And as my immersion starts to wind down, my change is going to be to focus on working really closely with as many donors as possible and trying to reconnect with them, and doing that in any way that we can. If that means over Zoom calls, telephone calls, possibly over a walk or over a cup of coffee, if it will ever be possible again. As a matter of fact, Darren, I know that you're also a very generous, supportive donor of Seattle Humane. You give wildly of both your personal time, like today, and your volunteering and dollars. And on behalf of the agency, I want to say to you as well, thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
And then again, for everybody who is joining this call today, as Darren had mentioned, if you're possibly a first-timer who's participating in this call, trying to get to know us a little bit better, what makes us special and how we're so important in the sheltering for this community, or if you're a longtime donor that knows us well and you're possibly having just checked back in to understand how we've been operating in this land of COVID, I would say to you both, thank you very much. Thank you for both your support and your time, and please know that any donation that you're willing to make today or in the future will always make a life-saving impact to all the animals that we touch. So I could go on, it's easy. The mission and this work absolutely motivates my head and my heart. So it's an easy topic to just continue talking about, but fortunately I won't. I'll save those comments for another time and another forum. But I do want to say to everybody that was able to tune in, and hopefully for those of you that were able to hear and see the full presentation up to now, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your support. And as always, thank you for your time. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, Christopher. As Christopher mentioned, yeah, I am a proud supporter of Seattle Humane, and I definitely invite you all to give generously today. We'll be sharing the link again to make an online gift. In addition to your personal contribution, remember, we have a lot of generous corporate sponsors today that'll be matching those gifts and doubling your impact. In fact, we have a generous match today for every dollar raised up to $17,500. So the hope is today, by the end of this program, we will be able to get every one of those dollars matched. And while you're all making those online gifts, I do want to take a moment to introduce you to two amazing young women, both graduates of the Seattle Humane Teen Club, which is one of Seattle Humane's stellar education programs. A little bit of background on the Seattle Humane Teen Club. It's for young animal lovers aged 13 to 17. Any teenagers enrolled in it get together and get to explore a variety of animal welfare related topics. Once they complete the program, they're actually eligible for full volunteer positions within Seattle Humane. And I've actually had the pleasure to train a few of them in vet services. So it's been a wonderful program for getting young people involved in our shelter. Ava Flynn and Novia Liu are two remarkable graduates putting together their learnings from Seattle Humane to good use. This video they put together gives you just a peek at their inspiring work. So yeah, let's take a look.
My name is Ava Finn.
And I'm Novia Liu.
And since 2018, we've had the honor of serving as adoptions interns at Seattle Humane. Novia and I have loved animals our entire lives and jumped at the opportunity to join the Humane Teen Club at 13 and 14. As luck would have it, we ended up working alongside each other in our summer internship in the adoptions department and decided to work together on our final project, a push for animal welfare.
Growing up, Ava and I have always been staunch opponents of puppy and kitten mills, commercial breeding operations which value profit over the well-being of their animals. Animals in these facilities are often mentally, physically, and emotionally scarred. A puppy mill dog may spend their entire life trapped in a stacked cage, never actually feeling the ground beneath their feet. Due to inadequate food and water, these animals often suffer from malnutrition and subsequent health issues. Adult females are forced to breed until they are no longer physically able, and older animals are simply abandoned once the mill deems that they have lost value.
As we dove into searching for a solution, we learned one of the countless horrible things about these mills is that they're actually legal. A USDA license, the most common benchmark for state animal breeding laws, does not actually require humane treatment, meaning a mill can give off a false image of reputability by showing off their supposed proof of care.
Thankfully, Ava and I found that there aren't many puppy mills themselves in Washington state. However, our consumers are still unknowingly propagating their existence. A handful of pet stores, several of which are just an hour's drive away, rely on these out-of-state mills to supply their animals. Ava and I realized that we have virtually no laws in place to prevent out-of-state mills from shipping their puppies and kittens into our state and profiting off of our communities. So, we set our minds to getting one passed. The product is the Humane Pet Sales Bill.
Awesome. So, yeah, welcome Ava and Novia. Thank you so much for being here today. I imagine it's been a busy day for you, so thank you for taking the time.
Eventually, we got in contact
Thank you so
with
much for
Seattle
having
Safe
us.
Haven, another Washington animal rescue already working.
And for joining us on a busy day such as today. So yeah, we have a few questions, especially after watching that inspiring video. So the first one is, I guess when it comes to thinking outside the box, which was the theme of this program today, you realized you actually have to think outside the state. So what is the status of the bill now?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. We actually just got back about 20 minutes ago from testifying at the House Consumer Protection and Business Committee. So that is set for a vote on Monday. If it gets approved there, it goes on to the full House, repeats in the Senate, and then eventually hopefully lands on the governor's desk.
And then for some updates on the language this year's bill would prohibit any new stores from selling cats or dogs, and those that currently do sell would have to source from breeders that meet the standards of Washington state, even if they're out-of-state breeders, like you mentioned earlier. So those are set based on a 2009 bill, which states that breeders can't have any more than 50 breeding dogs at a given time. Those dogs have to be able to lie down and fully extend without touching any sides of the enclosure or another animal. They have to get regular exercise, at least an hour daily. Their enclosures have to be maintained, and of course, regular vet care, as you have so wonderfully helped provide at Seattle Humane. There's also an aspect of transparency where those stores will have to actually show the information of these breeders so that our adopters and their consumers will know where their puppies and kittens are coming from.
I love it. That is amazing work. So it actually leads to my next question. What you two have done is monumental, but also insanely difficult. And that was before the pandemic. Now that we're in the middle of a pandemic, everything seems to be a lot more difficult to achieve. Even trying to go out to eat is a challenge nowadays. For you two, though, there has been some opportunities with all this social distancing and remote access and remote working. What are some of the opportunities that those mechanics have provided for you two?
Yeah, so I think for us, we were initially a little bit intimidated by the pandemic, but it has led to a really incredible silver lining where we are able to reach so many new audiences that we never could before. In the past, Novi and I have tried our best to get out to as many people as possible, but of course there's some geographic limitations. But everything moving virtual has actually allowed us to meet over Zoom with a lot of different groups. We've met with several chapters of the Indivisible organization, everywhere from the East Side to Snohomish County to even Greater Vancouver. So that's been a really incredible experience.
Definitely. It's wonderful that we were able to do our schoolwork in the morning and the afternoon and just hop onto a Zoom call in the evening to talk with these groups and get into that advocacy. Constituent support is so important. And with this being the middle of the legislative session, it's actually the ideal time for you guys to express your support of this bill, if you so choose, by contacting your district legislator.
And I think everybody who's watching this today should definitely be supporting that bill. Seattle Humane isn't just an organization trying to find homes for animals. We're also trying to make life better for the animals outside of our shelter. So amazing work. So I have to ask, what is next for you two? I know you'll be graduating from high school this June, but what's next?
So for me personally, my plan is to study political science in college. It's always been an academic passion of mine, looking at how different government institutions interact and protect the livelihoods of citizens like us. But Ava and I have been hoping that during our breaks, we'll be able to come back and be at Seattle Humane, be back behind the front desk in adoptions and volunteer once more, because this organization has really become a home for us over these last 3 years, and we'd love to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. For myself, I will be studying pre-medical sciences and sociology with a pretty big emphasis on healthcare public policy. So legislative involvement will definitely always be a part of my life, but animals as well. I would love to continue working at Seattle Humane, and as Novia said, we definitely anticipate that once the pandemic has slowed down, we will hopefully be back in action at our favorite adoptions desk.
Awesome. One question came in that I think would be super important to answer. What's the bill likely for your bill? For anybody that wants to call in and voice their concerns and support.
In the House, it's 1424.
And it's in the House Consumer Protection and Business Committee, if that helps at all as well.
No, that is perfect. The more information, the more informed we're all going to sound when we call in to our representatives. So, that is amazing. I want to thank you again for joining us. I think I echo some of the comments that I've seen on Facebook already. You two are amazing role models. I know that, we hear the term voice for the voiceless a lot, and I feel like you two embody the type of role model that people who want to be a voice for the voiceless should aspire to be. So I'm super excited to see what the future holds. I definitely am looking forward to being back in the shelter. I'll definitely swing by the adoption desk once we are all done. And hopefully, if you ever wanted to or vet services, I'll be in there. Usually I gotta, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us once again.
Anytime. All right. So Humane Education is just one of the programs you could support today. We've learned about the ripple effect just now of fostering the next generation of animal welfare activists. So I hope you'll be excited to help support the programs that support them. Ava and Novia saw a problem, and they worked tirelessly to think outside the box to come up with a solution. That has been an underlying theme for a lot of organizations during the pandemic. And Seattle Humane really hasn't been an exception there. We have alluded to some of the innovative work of Seattle Humane, and now we're gonna get a chance to see what that really looks like. We have a video telling the story of thinking outside the box, looking down the line, and forming solutions to some of the complex issues that the shelter and the organization as a whole has faced in the last year. So with that, let's take you back to March of 2020.
When COVID forced us to close our doors, we had nearly 200 animals in our care. We needed foster homes for all of them and reached out to the community. In 2 days, we received 300 new applications. Hundreds more poured in. You answered our call for help, and with your support, we met the challenges of 2020, finding new ways to care for pets and our community. People and pets together safely during a pandemic required innovating our adoption process, with curbside pickup, socially distant outside visits, moving the application process online, and making lots of phone calls.
Interested in? You can submit now.
Sharing new insights about pet personalities from foster parents, we found perfect matches in homes for nearly 2,000 adoptable pets in 2020. Through safe, no-contact curbside adoptions.
Oh, she's so cute! You wanna give her a treat? Hi, sweet girl.
Another innovation? Using telemedicine for pets in our care. Virtual visits reduce the need for foster pets to come to the shelter. Cora needed our help. This 2-month-old French Bulldog pup came to us in late September with parvovirus, an incredibly dangerous and often deadly disease. Facing veterinary bills in the thousands, Cora's family turned to Seattle Humane for help. We immediately began treatment on little Cora. She was given IV fluids, antibiotics, and a feeding tube. With lots of TLC, Cora began to improve. She began eating, and her feeding tube was removed. 10 days later, she was ready to go home. Through our new community program, Cora then returned to us for vaccines, wellness care, and her Spay surgery, giving her the best chance of a healthy life at home with her family.
Hey Bill, love you baby.
Requests for help with pet food surged after COVID, as families struggled to keep their pets. But our pet food bank never shut down. Never stopped delivering. 800 to 2,000 families relied on our services every month. Through deliveries and our mobile pet food bank, We provided over 1.2 million meals for pets in 2020, allowing them to stay with their families that love them. For every challenge, we found a way forward. In education, in fundraising, always with our mission in mind. Your support made all this possible in 2020. Together, imagine what we can do in 2021.
Wow. So the Seattle Humane staff has done an incredible job this year, anticipating how best to serve the communities. They've put programs in place to help keep animals out of the shelter when staffing and volunteering is just been virtually impossible during the pandemic. Keeping families together in what might be some of the darkest times families have been facing, and ensuring the continuity of care for all the animals in our system today. And right now, they're going to be building on those best practices learned from the last year to continue serving the pets and our community at large in need. So yeah, just a reminder, I'm inviting you once again to join me and help Seattle Humane continue to expand their life-saving impact. Now is definitely a perfect time to help with that. If you registered for Lunch Bytes, you may have or will receive a text message with a link to our giving site. Click the Greatest Need button on the right side of the screen and make a gift to help us reach our fundraising goal. You can follow the link in the comments right now to make a gift online as well. So I want to give a big thank you to everyone who's donated already. You can see these generous supporters on the honor roll, and feel free to join them at any time to make a gift. So 2020 has shown us the power of companionship. Having my pets at home with me during this pandemic has certainly helped me through periods of isolation. I mean, if you thought I wasn't leaving the house besides going to the shelter before 2020, I rarely leave the house anymore. And so having the cats to partially drive me crazy, but also keep me company most of the day has been a huge, huge blessing. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for all of the work at Seattle Humane. We have close to 2,000 households that have added new furry family members during the pandemic. And most importantly, there are many pets that are still able to stay with their loving families as a result of the work of Seattle Humane. And this upcoming video is just going to showcase a few of those. So this video is absolutely a prime example of how your support impacts the organization. So you can see Seattle Humane's been very busy. As I mentioned earlier, every donation today is going to help us unlock over $17,500 in matching gifts from our sponsors. But I didn't really take sponsors actually are. So I want to give a huge shout out to Jago Family Dentistry, Medical Spa at Pro Medical, of course, Mud Bay, huge supporter of Seattle Humane, PSF Mechanical, Suits Mallory, and VCA Hospitals. If we raise $17,500 in individual gifts today, which I will say I believe we may have already smashed, we will have generated $35,000 in support for Seattle Humane. And I know we can do better than that. In fact, we are, based on the numbers that I'm seeing right now, doing better than that. So, yeah, there's a lot of people to recognize here. I mean, wow. Thank you all. This is an immense amount of support. Right now, we've got about $19,098. I see a lot of really familiar faces on that list. Staff, volunteers, longtime supporters. Thank you all so much. This is absolutely amazing. And the money you're raising right now is absolutely going to make a huge impact to the organization and helping continue to drive its work while we reach that light at the end of this tunnel. So I will mention, you can continue giving online. Everyone has about 30 more minutes to help us unlock any matching gifts we already have. I do want to take the time to mention, since this is something we do at Microsoft as well, if you do have an employer with a matching gift program, please submit your event receipt. Get that match. I did it for this event. If you are a Microsoft employee and this might be your first time making a donation and you need some help, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to walk you through that process. If it's not Microsoft, I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to be much help. But yeah, I look forward to announcing the grand total later on. But first, don't want to waste any more time. We have an amazing panel of Seattle Humane experts just waiting to answer your pet-related questions. So I am going to introduce our panel. We have Lisa Drake. She is the Chief of Community Programs at Seattle Humane.
Hello.
Hey, Lisa. I have a quick question, or a couple quick questions just to introduce you. How long have you been with Seattle Humane?
So I've been with Seattle Humane actually 10 years as of last month.
Nice. Okay. One thing I know, having seen you around the shelter for quite a few years now, you've worn a lot of hats and you have completed a time. So what was the weirdest training you've completed? And is there anything you haven't tried yet at the shelter?
Well, I got to say that most of my training through the shelter has been pretty focused on dogs and cats. So I'm not sure that there's anything wildly impressive to pull out of that. But my love of animals does extend beyond the shelter walls. I'm super into learning about different wildlife. And so it might be surprising to know I've taken a lot of classes from everything from bird watching to beekeeping to wildlife tracking, like you name it. If it's interesting, I'll probably watch it and want to learn about it. So as far as things I haven't tried, I mean, I know goat yoga is a really big trend. That may not be something I do, but who knows what the future brings.
It's weird. I have seen so many references to goat yoga on just about every TV series I'm apparently binge watching these days. So yeah, have not been a big goat yoga person myself. Hi, Luna. All right. Next, the obvious question, do you have any pets at home?
I do. I have a beautiful fluffy gray cat named Ame, who is a Seattle Humane alum, about 9 years old now, hard to believe. And I will say she is both the sweetest as well as the silliest pet I've ever had in my life. So if you ever want a good Ame story, I'm always happy to share.
Okay. Emily Keegans, you're the Chief of Animal Behavior at Seattle Humane. How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Trying to trying to calm Luna down. Anytime we get into a Zoom call, she likes to make an appearance. So how long have you been with Seattle Humane?
I've actually worked in a few different, I've been on and off at Seattle Humane, but since 1999. So about 20 years.
Wow. So I understand you've had a lot of dogs in your life, and I guess 20 years at the shelter, that shouldn't be surprising to anybody watching this. And you've had a lot of experience with a wide range of breeds. What was your first dog?
My first dog as an adult was a Pit Bull Labrador mix, and I loved training her so much. That's why I became a dog trainer.
So cool. And so I guess the question now is, do you have any pets at your home at the moment?
Funnily enough, I don't have any dogs right now, but I do have 2 cats. I have Marble, a tortoiseshell, and Fennel, a tabby, both from Seattle Humane. And I do clicker training with Marble. She knows some tricks, so she satisfies my need for a dog right now. And right now, I do have a puppy that I'm looking after. So if you hear any squeaking in the background, that might be him.
Awesome. All right. Next, we've got Dr. Jess Reed. She's the chief of shelter medicine. Dr. Reed, how long have you been with Seattle Humane?
I've been with Seattle Humane for just about 5 years.
Wow, that's right. And I understand, well, I may have even seen a couple of these cases, but I understand you've removed some weird things from animal stomachs over the years. But the strangest was a sound machine. Now this story is definitely new to me. Was it the whole machine?
Yeah, it was the whole machine. We no longer keep sound machines inside of the kennels. We keep them outside now, but I guess that dog didn't find it very soothing, and he chewed it and ingested the whole thing. So that was an interesting surgery to remove little bits and pieces of electronics.
I feel like there's enough material right there to make like the Grey's Anatomy of veterinary medicine.
It was a pretty interesting surgery and pretty interesting x-rays to take a look at.
I couldn't
circuit boards in there.
Wow. So do you have any pets at home right now?
I do. I have 1 dog and 1 cat. I have a little 6-year-old pug mix named Stanley, and I have Benny, a ragdoll kitty who, if I was at home, you would see his tail swishing across the screen just like your cat Luna's. Everybody knows Benny and has gotten to know him this year, and he's 16.
Aw, senior. All right, next, Julie Ross. You're the chief of animal care. So how long have you been with Seattle Humane?
Hi, yeah, I've been at Seattle Humane for almost 9 years.
We got a lot of veterans of the shelter here today. This is amazing. Well, we know you've also worn a lot of hats over that time. So interestingly enough, what is the most number of foster pets you've had in your home over the years?
Well, I started at Seattle Humane as cat foster coordinator, and I really wanted to learn a lot of skills. So I fostered quite a few pets my first couple of years. At one point I had a group of 15. So it was 2 moms and their 13 co-nursing kittens, which was easy to contain in the beginning and difficult to contain at week 8. It was a lot of cat litter.
I was gonna say, that is like an almost like legendary number of fosters to have. I mean, I don't know if we've ever called Guinness, but I feel like that's gotta be a record somewhere.
I think one of them was named Guinness. They were all named after types of beer.
That is amazing. 15 types of beer. I mean, you're in the Pacific Northwest, so like 15 types of beer. You could have like 100 fosters and still have plenty of names to go around. So leading into that, how many pets do you have at your home right now?
I don't have any fosters right now. I'll be foster sitting some of my former fosters that have been adopted this evening. But right now I own 2 dogs, and 4 cats and 7 chickens, and then I have a human toddler.
So cool. Anders Vandell, you are the shelter care manager at Seattle Humane. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
You know, just sitting here at home. Like, I guess, you know what? I've lost track of time. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. So how long have you been with Seattle Humane?
I have been with Seattle Humane for 3 years, which I guess makes me the baby out of this group.
Yes, it does. But that hasn't stopped you from coming into contact with a lot of animals at the shelter. So how many animals have peed on you in one day?
My record right now is 4 different animals peeing on me in one day.
We got a lot of interesting records at the shelter. You just don't get this with any other organization. What about animals at home now?
I have quite the assortment. So I have 2 cats that are indoor cats, and then I have 1 feral cat, although I don't really consider that I have her. She just kind of is cohabitating in my backyard helping with rodent control, thankfully, because we do have 2 chickens out there and a rooster. And then I also have 2 snakes at home who were also rescues, not from Seattle Humane, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, that is a variety. All right. We're going to take a quick break and look at how we're doing with our charity drive here. We are at $19,223. That is phenomenal. We've crushed the match. We are still climbing. Still time to continue making those donations, but a huge thank you for everybody who's made that number possible. That is amazing. So we'll jump back in and let's start taking some questions. Right. I'm also going to check the Facebook feed in case a couple of them slip through there as well. Oh, we got a quiet group of attendees today. Let's see. Okay, so I've got a couple questions here. Seems like sometimes you get a question from the public around why they should spay and neuter their pet.
Yes, that one for me. Lots of reasons. It depends a little bit on whether you have a male or a female, but one obvious one is to prevent unwanted litters. Even if litters are intended, there can be complications with pregnancy and delivery. And we all know in the animal welfare community that we have an abundance of some animals. So that's a big one. Another big one is for health reasons. So both for males and females, altering pets early, especially for females before their first heat cycle, can prevent the risk of mammary cancer later in life. And if you get it before that first heat cycle, you can actually reduce that risk by over 90%, which is a big deal. Being spayed also means that you're not going to develop complications like uterine infections, also called pyometra, uterine cancers or other reproductive cancers, and same for our male dogs. Testicular cancer is something that can happen later in life. And then there are some obvious behavioral benefits to having altered pets. They are less likely to roam, which obviously can get them into trouble. So things like lost pets and hit by car accidents and fights and injuries can really be reduced if they don't have that drive to go find a girlfriend or boyfriend. So those would be the big ones that come to mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty solid amount of answers to why spay and neuter is super important. So another question, I know we have a 16-year-old cat represented. when we were going over the introductions, but how long on average do cats generally live?
That's a tough one. We definitely these days, with improvements in veterinary diets and veterinary care, widespread access to vaccines, we're seeing cats live into their 20s without very many medical complications. And when we run into those, we have lots of different ways to treat them. So I would say, an average would be like in the teenage years at least. But there are always outliers who live, quite a bit longer, and then unfortunately those that don't. So
it's a mixed bag.
Long-term commitment for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm gonna start. I've got a mix of questions here. This one's more numbers related. How many dogs do we currently have in foster right now?
Hi. I believe we have just a handful of dogs. I believe it's 10, but I can take a look and find out the answer to that.
Cool. All right. We've got this one. I think this one has been one on the top of everybody's mind. What's the lowdown on COVID with cats and dogs? I know there's been a lot of information flowing around COVID, some true, some false. Transmitting symptoms. What do we need to be concerned about when it comes to our furry friends?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there. A good place to look is always at the CDC's website if you want more information. And there are lots of other veterinary resources out there. But we know that pets can become infected with COVID, so we can test them, and we know that they can harbor the disease. There haven't been any, to my knowledge. Seems like what has happened is that people who are infected with COVID and are in very close contact with their pet while they're sick and infectious can spread their disease to their pet, and then it can be, that pet can be tested positive, but they don't apparently get sick. There's some question with cats and some question with cat-related animals like minks, where they may actually develop some disease, but again, there's no evidence of transmission back to people. So the best thing to do is, if you're sick, try as hard as it is to socially distance from your pet while you're sick. And there's lots of studies that are still ongoing for all different kinds of testing for pets of people with COVID, and I'm sure that in the years and even months to come, we'll know more about that.
Awesome. Yeah. When you said social distancing from pets, that's easily the hardest thing to do. Yeah, but
I'll be honest, it wouldn't happen in my house. I sleep with a cat here and a dog here every single night. It just wouldn't happen, but that's the recommendation. So
that's a great recommendation, and we know how pet dogs and especially cats are. You can explain social distancing to them, and it's not going to happen. Right. We have a question around. So we added another dog to our home, and we're starting to see some resource guarding. How can they address that?
Oh, wow. Good question. I'm assuming that we're talking about resource guarding one dog, resource guarding from another. So that can be guarding over food, not wanting to share food, toys, treats, or attention. First of all, it's important to know it's really, really normal for dogs to do this. But what you want to do is make sharing for attention, make sharing a good thing. But there's also just some preventative things like separating the dogs for feeding. It's just really important to do that. You may do it forever. You may just need to do it as they build a relationship and trust each other a little bit more. But they shouldn't be trying to eat out of the same bowl or really close to each other. But at first, separate rooms or separated by a baby gate is good. And then having their downtime when they get their special chews separated, that's kind of their downtime to be on their separate beds or in their separate crates. I really like to teach that if there's one dog who pushes in for attention, pushes in to get toys, to teach that dog patience is actually what gets you what you want. So hanging back and waiting while I pay attention to this dog and give this dog a treat means you're next and something really good is going to happen for you. So that's what you want to teach the dogs, that sharing and waiting your turn is actually what gets you the good stuff. Same for going through doors. That can also be a place where issues happen. Both dogs try to go through a threshold together and there's a problem there. Teach the dogs to wait and let one dog go first and then the next dog. And if you have one dog that tends to be the pushy dog, you actually always want that dog to go second, so they learn that waiting their turn gets them the thing that they want.
So even in the canine world, patience is a virtue. Yeah. This is another dog-related question. What is a safe distance, guessing in terms of length, to take a husky on a walk or run, and does it differ from other breeds?
I'm going to let Dr. Reed answer that one because it's kind of a physical, medical question, I think.
An endurance question, yeah.
I mean, and I don't know that I have a really specific answer. I think Huskies are definitely an athletic breed. I think the big thing with them is obviously that they are an Arctic breed and they are not well suited for warm temperatures at all. So what feels comfortable for us is probably well warmer than what is advisable for them. So, you know, I'm really comfortable around 70 degrees and I'm feeling chilly if it's like, I've really adapted to the Pacific Northwest. So if it's, you know, like in the 60s, I'm feeling a little chilly. That's probably still a bit warm for them. So I think just take it easy and monitor. I don't have a really good sense of lengths and distances. I couldn't run even a quarter of a mile if you asked me to. So I'm not going to put that on a husky either. But just really close attention to the ambient temperature, I would say, and humidity for them.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, normally when we see a human running and they clearly are at their wits' end, they're usually cursing everyone around them or collapsing on the side of the sidewalk. What are some of the symptoms to look for that maybe your furry friend has had enough?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think running out of steam is a good one. Like they're sort of starting to slow down and we're saying like, come on, keep going. That, you know, is a pretty good indication. Other things would be, you know, excessive panting, hypersalivation, sort of like really red gums or tongue in the minor cases. And then in more extreme cases, obviously, like if they're lethargic or they don't want to continue going or coughing or having any kind of difficulty breathing, those could all be symptoms of overheating. They don't sweat and it's not easy to see, you know, they don't usually just start to let you know, so you have to look out for things that are subtly different as a first step.
Awesome. I think that's a great answer to the distance. Just much like us, know your body or know your husky's body, know your dog's body, and make sure you know you see those signs. That that's the safe distance. Okay, awesome. Another foster question. Now I know the foster program can deliver hours of content on this. So what sort of support do you offer foster families if they don't have a lot of experience with pets?
Yeah. Well, so we have available for just teaching you how to have a pet. So having a foster pet's a little bit different than having your own pet, because we are gonna tell you what kind of food to feed, and if there's any medications, that kind of stuff. So we have training videos, we have resources we can share with you, but in terms of supplies, we'll also supply you anything you need to foster a pet. So from, we'll send the pet, if it's a dog, home with a leash, collar, harness, if you need a crate, if you need an X-Pen, if you need, we'll send you with food, all that kind of stuff. So any supplies you need, as long as you provide the time and the home, then we can provide you with the rest. And then we're always available for any coaching or advice at any time, and we're really working on developing even more webinars and content and stuff for foster parents to learn and advance their skills. That is awesome. So yeah, anybody watching this that's nervous that they are not quite equipped to foster, but really have the drive to do so, reach out. We got you.
Awesome.
Can I add something, Darren?
Absolutely.
I saw in one of the videos it showed off the telemedicine that the vets are doing, and so that's been great for foster parents. And we actually kind of copied that with a behavior helpline for foster parents as well, for fosters of dogs and cats who need a little extra help figuring out a behavior plan for their dog or cat.
Yes, completely. Our foster parents have access to our tremendous behavior and medical resources, and we make it as easy as possible.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for that answer. I know that when I first started at Seattle Humane, it can be very intimidating, foster programs, even vet services was crazy. So it's really good to know that for every step that somebody who wants to support the organization wants to take, there are resources and support right behind you. Right, so we have a question that's been sitting here for a little while. This one is actually interesting because I have seen, again, a little bit of misinformation, a little bit of debate around the right time to spay and neuter your dog. So the question is it true that dogs may not fully develop properly if they're spayed or neutered before 1 year old?
It's a really tough one. There is a lot of controversy about this, and there is no definitive answer, but there are some studies out there. None of them are perfect studies, talking about the right age to spay and neuter. And it does seem like spaying early can lead to some growth plates staying open a little bit longer. And in large and giant breed dogs, that can have an effect on the sort of their height that they grow to. The implications of that are still not fully understood. So some people think it might lead to things like arthritis and sort of joint issues down the road. But again, the studies that do exist on this topic were done in small populations of dogs that it's really hard to extrapolate that information to every single breed, because again, there were like small studies in specific breeds. So we still recommend spaying and neutering, certainly in shelters at a young age. I think if you have a pet that you already have in your care that is unaltered, and you can keep them separate from other animals and monitor their health and talk to your vet and spay and neuter at the age that they say is appropriate, I think that's totally legitimate in a shelter situation. We're going to do it as early as we can so that we can get them into people's homes, out of the shelter, and then save more lives. So not a clear-cut answer on that one.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to any question of the medical nature, there's just too many variables sometimes to kind of come up with that 2 + 2 = 4 style answer. Although this one should be a relatively easy question, especially now that the shelter is still kind of in that stage of the pandemic. Is there an adoption wait list?
I can take that one. So the short answer is no, there's no adoption wait list, but it's a great opportunity to clarify how our adoption process works. So right now, all of our animals are available for application online. So all of their information, their profiles can be found on our website. And we have a link to an online questionnaire that you would fill out for any animals that you're interested in. And then from there, the advising process is actually pretty similar to before we went into which is that our advisors talk through kind of the animal's history and any considerations for setup in the house, and really are just there to help people find a good match. So the process all starts on our website, and we're always happy to answer questions about that process.
Awesome. Okay, this one, pivoting a little bit, we talk a lot about cats and dogs, but what is the best way to prepare bringing home a small mammal? We're talking rabbits, guinea pigs, rats, mice, hamsters, gerbils. I'm probably missing another small animal there. What are some tips we can provide our viewers?
So I can take that one. First and foremost, I think the most important thing you can do when bringing home a small mammal is to research that species and how they communicate when they're happy, when they're frustrated, when they're scared and stressed. A lot of the times we tend to default to like the things we see in dogs and cats. But if a dog is wagging its tail, it means something very, very different than if a rat is wagging its tail around. So you really want to make sure that you understand what your animal is trying to communicate with you before you even bring it home. The next thing I would really recommend is to look at sizing options. A lot of these small mammals historically were kept in pretty small cages. Like you even still see them a lot at the pet stores where they're pretty small and bright and colorful. But those are actually can lead to pretty stressful situations for these mammals. They typically need a lot more space than what you're used to historically thinking they need. So you want to make sure that you give them enough space, that you cover their diet appropriately. There are certain fruits and vegetables that could actually lead to death with some of these animals, and you don't want to accidentally give your new pet something that could be really toxic to their system. So I would check how they communicate, good housing, and then what foods can you really give these animals that will help them stay healthy and thriving. And then I would lastly look into the sociability of these animals. Do they really need another species of their same type in order to be like mentally and physically healthy and happy? Then you should probably look at getting 2 of them, maybe even 3. Have a whole little rat colony. They would love it. It'd be great. You'd be the talk of the town. But those would kind of be my big starting points. If you're like, yes, I think a small animal might be the way to go, just do your research for that specific breed.
So knowledge is power at 24/7 rat parties.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, kind of a lot of foster questions today. Are there types of foster homes you really need right now? Anything that stands out that we're looking for as an organization?
Yeah, so right now our applications are currently closed. We when at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of attention on foster parenting, which was awesome. There was like a People magazine article. At one point, we got 300 new foster parents in one weekend. So our program is currently not accepting new foster parents, but the first group of foster parents we'll be accepting back are probably people who can handle take on our dogs that need to live in a home without other dogs or without other cats, and that have a fenced yard so that they can have time to go outside in a yard off leash. So that's probably the first group of foster parents we'll bring back. We're working currently on developing the skills of our current existing foster parents, but really it's people who can handle our tougher dogs who need a different type of setup than like an apartment or a very, very active home. So basically the opposite of my home is what we're going to be looking for.
Awesome. Okay, let me see here. Wow, the questions are flowing through right now. This is a good one. So someone has been looking for a dog for a while, and it's a good problem for us to have, but definitely for adopters, I can understand the frustration there. Will there be more dogs and animals in general available soon? What's the frequency we're seeing right now with our limited services during the pandemic?
I'll take that one as well. So we have been seeing a little bit of a slowdown during this winter, just kind of our natural cycle of animals coming into the shelter locally. The requests tend to go along with kitten season here. That all being said, we are working on kind of reestablishing our transfers from out of the area, so out of the state. That tends to be where we see a lot of animals coming into our shelter this time of year. So we're really excited to reintroduce our flights from Hawaii that are bringing animals to us in the coming weeks. We're also working with partners in other states to get some ground transports and some flights that will bring us more dogs. So hang in there. I know it's really frustrating to continue to have to watch our website, but at this point, it really is the best way to keep tabs on incoming animals coming in, and we will start to see those numbers go up.
Great. All right. Good question, but it is actually a really good one. Is there a plan to continue to provide low cost / free vet care services beyond the spay and neuter that we offer after the pandemic? And if so, how are local vets responding to this? It's a multi-tier question. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, there is a plan. You heard it here first. information hot off the presses. We did hire a vet to be our community medicine veterinarian this year. Dr. Friedman joined our team in October, and we'll be launching this publicly on our website probably the end of this month, early March. But that program will be to serve pets owned by lower income families in need of basic pet wellness care. So exams, vaccines, simple medical issues like skin infections and fleas. So that is new to Seattle, even though it's not, we're not advertising it, and it will be available more widely very soon. So we're really excited about that. I think the second part of the question was around how community vets are responding to that. And we haven't really announced this program yet, so we don't know, but we do know that there is support in the veterinary community for this kind of work. So when the Practice Act in Washington changed a couple summers ago, that was because veterinarians in the community were supporting that. And as a veterinarian who has worked in private practice as well, I know for myself and for a lot of other vets that it's really difficult when you're faced with a pet who needs care and somebody can't afford it. And so I think folks are pretty understanding that there's always going to be a need for some extra help. And these services are not free, they're subsidized. So our generous donors and supporters donating to Seattle Humane are actually helping to fund those lower cost services for people who need them.
That is awesome. That was definitely news to me personally. So I'm really excited. I know it was a huge celebration when the laws changed a couple summers ago. And I know you and the rest of the organization have been working so diligently on how to respond to that. And it sounds like you've come up with some really amazing programs that are going to help people, which is, you're right. I think a lot of us who supported that change in the law looked at it as, I don't see why private practices would be upset, because you want your patients to survive so they'll be back for care in the future when things are better for their families. So that is amazing news. All right, so this one, I know I personally have asked myself with every adoption, how can I properly introduce two cats to each other? I have had some of my friends occasionally think, just dump them together and they're gonna meet each other like it's speed dating. And then only to find out that it's more like the Mortal Kombat. So how do we introduce two cats to each other? What is the best way to guarantee success for those furry ones?
Well, I'll start and then others can jump in because there's a lot of good wisdom on this, but in a phrase, slowly and gradually. Kind of the opposite of what you just described, Darren. So keeping them in separate rooms, feeding them special meals, like if you can have when they get their stinky wet food at night, having them eat it on the other side of the door from each other. They know each other's there, they can smell each other, and then they build that association to, I get my yummy food when this other presence is there. Switch their bedding so that they can get used to each other's scent. So a blanket that they've slept on for a couple of days, then switch them. When you do start to have them actually meet each other, make sure it's supervised and don't start leaving them alone together until you're really feeling like they're truly comfortable with each other, not just tolerating, because you really want to be able to separate quickly if things go sideways, rather than, it's just really difficult to recover from a fight. Much better to take a little extra time. And I'll let others jump in if you have anything to add to that.
The only thing I would add is the slower the better, and you want it to be boring. I know a lot of people want to hurry up and get the photo of them curling together for Instagram. I get it. But you want it to be as super boring as possible. They don't notice. They don't notice that you're adding a new family member.
So this one, I think, might be super important to a lot of us working from home, hopefully sooner than later. What are some of the recommendations around getting our pets ready for our return to work or school? I imagine it'll be just as massive a change for them as it was when they suddenly had us around 24/7.
Yep, it's going to be terrible when we have to go back out of the house for us and our pets. Just start getting them used to the routine, and make sure that even during this time when we can actually be home with them all the time, that you're still leaving them alone at least for a little while every day. Go for a walk around the block, do something to have that continue to be normal. For dogs, you can associate that with getting a special treat. In case you haven't noticed, I'm really all about treats for dogs, building good associations. So if you have, say, a Kong with peanut butter smeared in it, or another special treat the dog really loves, save that and only have the dog get it when they're left alone. So they're building that good association. Put on your work clothes and get them used to seeing you, not just in sweatpants all the time, but then actually just stay home while you're wearing the work clothes, because you just don't want them to build an association with, oh no, now you're putting on the fancy clothes, you're picking up the briefcase, that means you're about to leave me forever. So as you get to the point where you know you're going to be away from home more, start building up the time that you're leaving them alone. And if you've just gotten a dog or a puppy, start doing that from day one. Make sure that that's part of normal life, is sometimes you get left alone.
It's actually a really good segue to another question that came up. And I know this has been on top of my mind as somebody thinking about the potential of maybe adopting a dog. During the pandemic, a lot of the training facilities and doggy schools that you would go to are closed down. What are some recommendations for new pup parents on how to socialize their puppies during the pandemic? Any tips, tricks?
Oh yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this too. I'll do a shameless plug first. Seattle Humane does have a class called Puppy Priorities, which really talks about this a lot. And it's a great class to take if you're thinking about getting a puppy. It's just a 1-hour seminar online, super easy to take. So look on our website and you can sign up for that. But I think about the things that we do in puppy class. A lot of the things we do are try to expose the puppies to noises, unusual sights. And then again, here's my theme again, then they get a treat. So if you hear the garbage truck going by the house, get your puppy, go outside, watch the truck go by, give the puppy a treat. One of the things that when I had a dog who wasn't very well socialized, that happened to her, one day I came home wearing a motorbike helmet and she was terrified and she peed all over the floor because I looked like an alien probably. So you can do things like this, like put on a motorbike helmet and come into the house and give your puppy a treat. When you're outside, even if you can't actually go up and see people, you can still have the puppy observe people and get a treat. Expose them to different surfaces, have them climb on different things. At home, run the vacuum, then give a treat. So basically, socialization doesn't just mean exposure, it means building a good association. So always have treats with you and just think about, get creative. Have everybody in the house put on hats and sunglasses and wander around. Just get them used to all those sorts of things.
Awesome. So this question I wasn't ignoring, but it has been outstanding for a little while. Can you talk about issues with rehoming? Are training and bonding typically issues? Generally, what are some of the concerns when it comes to a rehome of an animal?
Should I take this one too?
If you want to take a stab at it, definitely round table. Yeah.
I feel like this is one that applies to a lot of things, but if you're thinking about training and bonding, you can totally train a dog or a cat regardless of age, and you can completely bond with them regardless of age. So there you shouldn't have any hesitation as far as a rehomed pet and being able to make that really strong connection and do the training regardless of age. So I wouldn't want people to hesitate for that reason. I don't know if others want to jump in.
I was just going to add a plug for our home-to-home program, which is all about rehoming pets. That's also new this year during the pandemic, for those that don't know about it. And it allows people to make connections and rehome pets without them ever coming into our shelter. So it uses our website to help make those connections. And some of our staff kind of are behind the scenes tinkering to make sure that people stay safe. But it's been really successful. And Lisa probably could share some numbers, although I'm putting her on the spot, about how many rehomings we've been a part of through that program.
Yeah, we've actually seen over 200 animals rehomed through the program. And so the really important thing to think about when you're talking about a pet going from one home to another is, having the family involved in that process. There's a lot of information that can be transferred, but also the pet there's so much more control over that transition process. So it can be as slow as it needs to be. There can be a lot of thought that goes into it. And so really, for families that are able to be part of that process, it also gives them the peace of mind of knowing, who the pet's going to and what that process looks like. So it's not the right answer for everyone, but for those that can't do it, we're really proud to be able to offer that tool.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a program I definitely wasn't aware of, but I love the idea of home to home and that personal touch. Okay, I think we have time for one more super quick question. I know this one I've definitely debated with a few people. Usually when it comes to filling a cat's food bowl, refilling it when it gets empty. Good idea, great idea. Just kidding. Is it a good idea, or is that something we as cat owners should be avoiding? Even if the cat gives us like the most, guilt-inducing looks when their food bowl is getting to the bottom.
I'm sure everyone has something. Yeah, I think everyone probably has something to say about this one. But I would say, for most animals, there is a certain amount of food that they need to eat for the day. And, some animals are more convincing than others to tell you that it should be more. But the idea is that, you're trying to monitor that in a way where you're keeping them at a healthy weight. Because, all kidding aside, there are some really serious health issues that can come out of, a pet being overweight. So I will be the first to admit that I have been convinced a few times by Humane to give her a few extra little kibbles here or there. But really the goal is to, try to keep that in moderation and, try to stick, as hard as it is, try to stick to a feeding schedule.
I would also add to that instead of refilling the bowl, why don't you make feeding time more fun and engaging for the cat? They are descendant from hunting animals, so they might really enjoy getting different types of feeders and hiding them about their rooms, maybe playing wand, catch, and work, and then you feed them. So an empty bowl could also be a sign that they're bored, and eating is something that they are doing to cope with that boredom. So why not give them some more enrichment and activity and have them kind of work a little bit to get that kill of the meal?
That's awesome. I was just going to add that cats, like people, have sort of obesity-related diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And so, as Lisa pointed out, this is a real concern. And overfeeding your cat can lead to obesity, which can lead to diabetes and insulin and costs. And you just don't want to go down that route. So I love your idea, Manders.
Yeah. So long and short of it, no matter how much your cat begs and pleads, be smart about it. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so super excited. We are at the top of the hour, so time to announce the total. So with the support alone, we have raised $21,093. When we talk about including the sponsor match, we've actually raised more than $38,000 today, which is an incredible amount of money. So thank you so much, everybody who supported the cause, supported the organization, opened your hearts, and hopefully you're leaving today's virtual luncheon with some inspiration. If you're new to the organization, as we get out of this pandemic and even during, we could always use your love and support. And for the longtime supporters, thank you again for your support, continued now into the future. It's been amazing today. So I do want to thank everybody again for attending. This was our first virtual luncheon. You know, you never know how this is going to go, if people are going to attend, if it's, and clearly the numbers speak for themselves. Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed this afternoon. I know I've been enjoying being your host, and hopefully we'll talk soon. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.